Hey there, you rebelicious soul. It is great to have you here. I'm excited to inspire you again today, and I hope that this podcast episode will open up new possibilities within you. Enjoy and feel free to reach out if I can support you in any way. I love them and I hate them. I'm talking about relationships. Because, even though they can bring so much bliss and amazingness, sometimes they just, oh my God, they can be excruciatingly painful. Why is that? Well, that is because your partner, especially if you're in a romantic relationship and especially if you're living together in the same house, your partner is a walking and talking mirror that is constantly reflecting your own unhealed wounds. And with unhealed, I don't mean that you're not whole. I mean that there are parts of you that, you might still want to look at. And that is very normal. Now, one thing that a lot of relationship experts say is that, as soon as a relationship feels quiet and peaceful, then that's a good sign. And I do have to agree on some level with that, although I do want to, dive in a little bit deeper there. It suggests that as soon as you get triggered, and as soon as there is this incredible high in the beginning, like there's an incredible chemistry, often this is a trauma bond, and that is true. There are people that unconsciously choose each other because they are activated in, like, it's the old wounds that are activated. It's the same kind of dynamic that they've experienced in the past. Sometimes this is judged as something bad, like, hey, you're in a trauma bond or you're in a relationship that's basically similar to the one that you had with your dad or your mother, as if that is not something very human that we simply need to deal with. And what is put on a pedestal then is the relationship that just feels quiet and mature and there's nothing much going on, which is different for your system, which can feel unsafe for your system, which can feel like, there's not enough there and that you might walk away from, which actually means that it might be a good relationship for you. And this is a concept that I understand, and yet I feel that it's more nuanced. I do believe that the early stages of a relationship, I would love for everyone to just have an amazing time and enjoy. To just be able to lay down the foundations and not have any big drama coming up. If there's too much drama in the beginning, if there's a lot of maybes, unclarity, not fully stepping in, etc., and there's a pushing, pulling in the beginning, I always wonder, is that really what you want to bring into your life? Let it be effortless in the beginning when you're building a foundation, because I can guarantee that at some point, the mirror will come. At some point, your relationship will become painful. And I'm saying it with a little bit of a laugh because, we tend to hope and believe in the fairy tales that, we're going to fall in love, we're going to move in together, get married, maybe have kids, live happily ever after. And even though we know with our minds that that's not true, actually when we're in the relationship, as soon as the trouble arises, we start doubting and we start, pulling back, like, fuck, this is not what I want. I deserve so much better. And there's this entitlement that comes up. I see that a lot. And I only have to look back at my own history that in some cases, I was scared of really doing the hard work. Not in every relationship, but, it's definitely been there. At first it seems beautiful. Finally, someone who gets me, and it seems like the perfect match. But the truth is that it might very well be so. And with perfect, I don't mean fully perfect, obviously. I mean, something that that you work on so it can stay aligned. But that means that you need to be willing to see it through. Relationships are one big, huge fucking mirror for all our unresolved issues. And that is a never ending process. This is one of the reasons why I always feel like judging trauma bonds, even though I wouldn't recommend it. But at some point, every relationship will bring up your trauma. Maybe it's not the initial reason why you chose each other, which is great, so that you're not choosing each other based on an unconscious, unhealed trauma. But at some point, you simply bring your past along, which means that anyone, it doesn't matter who it would be, who you would end up in a relationship with, anyone is going to trigger those wounds. You will always get to see that, after the initial high of the relationship settles, the pain of previous relationships or childhood trauma arises. It just happens because, those are the buttons. Sorry, those are the buttons that will be pushed. We get to see all the ugliness, the flaws, the unhealed wounds, our own sense of unworthiness, our sense of entitlement, our righteousness, our defensiveness. We get to see it all, and our fear of abandonment. Yeah, and our partner is just the truth, the mirror that reflects it all. And depending on how safe we feel within ourselves, we may then start acting out to protect ourselves from this incredibly scary phenomenon that we call relating. I mean, when you think of it, it's just, what if they find out that you're not as strong and capable and sexy or whole as they first thought? And what if they realize that somebody else might be a better fit, you might wonder? What if there's somebody better out there for me is a question you might ask yourself. And what if they will expect too much from you and, you might not be able to give it? What if you fail? What if your partner gets to truly see you for who you are? What if? Think about that. Just let that sink in for a bit. What if your partner gets to see who you truly are with all of your mess? That is scary. Will they still love you? Will they still want you? Being so exposed, that is very frightening. And often this is an unconscious fear. It's not something that is very much on the surface. But it might drive your behavior more than you know. And you might find yourself moving in either one of the following directions. Is that you're moving closer because you really want to hold on to the security that you find in the relationship, or you distance yourself. You withdraw because you feel that, on some level, now it's safer to be on your own. And these are both protection mechanisms that we can all probably relate to. And they stem from the same fear. It's that fear of being left alone again. This is simply something that happens in every relationship. These are the deepest wounds that want to be seen and want to be, basically it's like they just want a kiss on it. Like, can you give a kiss on it like you would do with a child? Generally when a little child falls down, they run to their mommy and, they want a hug. Just give me a kiss on it. Actually, this is what the child within us wants from us as well. We may not run back to our parents, but we've got our own mature self along now. And what we can ask that mature part of ourselves is to become the parent that we missed in the past for these specific parts of us, for this pain, for this trauma. We can parent ourselves instead of focusing on our partner to fix it for us. And that is one of the things that can be brought out in relationships, and why they can be so painful is that we actually, in the beginning, we hope that it's all rainbows and roses, and that our partner is going to give us that satisfaction and that reassurance and that security that we crave for. But they have their own individuality and they have their own parts. So obviously they could never fill up that void. It is up to us as individual. It's up to you yourself to look at the wounds and look at, whatever is being reflected by your partner, what is touched upon in you. It is up to you to take that responsibility and look at, okay, this hurts. I feel so unsafe. Okay, so where have I experienced this before? And what does this part of me need now? How can I give it to myself? How can I reparent myself instead of projecting the responsibility, of putting the responsibility on my partner? Yeah. Now, the protection mechanisms that we have, obviously, if you do tend to, move from that adaptation that you learned, because, whether you want to cling on to the other person or you withdraw from the relationship, this is a protection mechanism. It's an adaptation. And you did that for a purpose, It is something that you needed in the past to survive. So it's important that you don't judge yourself for it. However, what is important is that you find a way to calm yourself and your nervous system down again so that you can feel safe and open to connect in a mature way. And when you've done that, when you're calm, then this opens you up to a third option. And, you really look at that. You really look at that mirror and whatever it tells you about the parts that want healing. And the great thing is that when you take ownership of this, instead of projecting it upon your partner, and you take ownership of the process within you, then it can be absolutely beautiful to invite your partner to stand next to you, to support you, not to be responsible for it, or to, but to just be there with you. And then there's absolute beauty that can be found in looking at that ugliness in the mirror, like your shortcomings and your wounds and the behavior that you might be showing that isn't very helpful. Your partner might reflect it to you, but might also be willing to look at that with you. And oh my God, this is when relationships are the ultimate opportunity to grow, and that takes, if you ask me, two imperfect soldiers of love who are both willing to march down that path and do the uncomfortable work, because that's what it is. Every relationship will bring discomfort, will bring up pain and wounds and shit that you haven't processed from the past. This is just a reality. This doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with your relationship. It doesn't have to mean that you're in a trauma bond. However, what I would say is that, what I would wish for you, what I would wish for everyone is that you start with a time of enjoyment where there's no drama yet, where you can really lay down a foundation together. And then at some point you welcome you welcome the mirrors. Yep. I wish you a lot of luck and love for yourself when you look into that mirror with your partner. Thank you so much for listening. It's been my absolute pleasure to share this with you again. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode, and if you're hungry for more, please check out my website, michellekoops.com, and subscribe to my newsletter, in which I share so much value every single week. Have a magical day. Stay raw, stay real, stay revelicious.